everyone. Welcome to my session on navigating a Power Platform developer's journey in consulting. Thank you to Dynamics User Group and MS Dynamics World for making this session possible. So, my name is Rachel Irabor. I'm a Microsoft MVP for Microsoft Business Application, specifically Power Apps and Power Automate. I'm a Power Platform and Dynamics 365 CRM developer. I'm also a regional lead for Microsoft Global Community Initiative, and I'm the organizer of Dynamics 365 Power Platform User Group Malta, and part of the leadership team for Power Platform User Group Nigeria. So the agenda for today, we are going to be looking at the difficulties that developers face, and also we're also going to be looking at key consulting skills that are essential for developers. Yeah. So we have different roles in Power Platform. There are different roles and careers in Power Platform, which is absolutely amazing. We have the Power Platform admin, we have the Power Platform consultant, we have the UI UX designer, we have the Power Platform developers, and so many others. But today we are going to be looking at Power Platform developer and the Power Platform consultant. So from my presentation slide at the left hand side, at least from my own left hand side, we can see the lady typing on her screen. She's actually typing code, which is cool. And then the lady at the right hand side, she's wearing a cute suit. And this animation design was done by using a prompt on Microsoft Designer. So if you are interested in that, you can check out Microsoft Designer on how to create images. Yeah. So Microsoft Power Platform, as I was saying, Microsoft Power Platform is a low-code, no-code platform, and it comprises of your Copilot Studio, which you can use to build your own Copilot, Power Apps, which you can use to build your own applications, your Power Automate, which you can use to create automations. You can use it to cut down repetitive tasks, and we have our Power BI, which is business intelligence, which you can use for reporting and also creating dashboards. Then we have our Power Pages, which is used for building websites. Then everything else we have on the screen, which is data connectors, AI builders, Microsoft Dataverse, Power FX, and managed environments. They are all parts of the Power Platform ecosystem. So a developer, what is the role of a developer? Developer, they play a lot of crucial role in a project or working on a either external or internal projects, or maybe working on a case study or whatsoever they are doing. They play a very crucial role, and we're just going to be looking at a few things of what they do. They help with extending a platform like customization. Maybe they have seen that, okay, this particular process is going to involve coding. A good example is, for instance, working on a modern driven app, and you want to make some fields required in a modern driven app. So instead of using maybe a business rule, you can easily just use JavaScript for it to make that, to actually create that requirement for the fields to be a required fields. So there are so many other things that, apart from that extending of the platform, we also have integration. So that is integrating of Power Platform with other platforms like Microsoft 365, Azure, or Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation. We also have the developers, they also work on building Power Platform solutions. So what are the difficulties that developers face? I'm very passionate about this topic. I know that we all have our own different experiences or different difficulties, especially as a developer. We all have our own, we have a particular issue that will say, okay, this is it, this is the particular issue I'm having. But in this session, we are just going to be looking at a few of the difficulties that I've seen a lot of developers have, and also I have also had some of these difficulties. So when having a project, at least the beginning of a project, they have this idea where the first thing they think about, like a developer, the first thing they think about a design. They think about the how the app design is going to look like, how the colors that is going to be used going to look like, how the features inside of the app is going to look like. Is there going to be what controls are going to be inside of the application? Going to think about filtering, think about so many other things that is going to be in the applications. These are very good ideas. Like, definitely, yes, you need to actually think about what you are doing. You need to think about how the app is going to look like. But these are not the first thing to think about when working in the beginning of a project. When working on a project, these are not the first things to think about in the beginning of a project. You have to think about the business problem. You have to think about the business requirement. Like, for instance, you need to think about, okay, a client comes to you and the client is like, okay, I want to build this setting. I want to build these certain solutions. These are the requirements. You need to understand the problem. You need to understand the reason why they need this change. Are they currently using a what are they currently using? What platform are they currently using? Or if not, if it's not a platform they are using, maybe they want to migrate from the platform they are using into Power Platform, or they are using a manual process and they want to make that an automated process. So these are things to find out first, and then find out there are so many things to do. After that, you have to find out data collection and so many other steps before thinking about the app design, or maybe the flow design, the flow, the way the architecture of the flow is going to be like. So there are a lot of things that comes into play before you start thinking about your app design. So one other thing is that not understanding the requirement fully, like not understanding a business requirement fully. Like, for instance, when you are given a use case or a scenario to work on a project, being able to translate that business requirement into what you are supposed to build, So, for instance, maybe you are given a written requirement. You are given a written requirement on a, if you use Azure DevOps, you might be familiar with this. You are given a user story that, okay, hi Rachel, can you work on this in this particular project? But you have difficulties with being able to translate that, requirement on what you need to do inside of Power Platform, either inside of an app, a flow, a web resource, or whatsoever you are supposed to do. So it's very essential to be able to understand business requirements and what is needed from you. So another thing is that I think this is very important, and a lot of people miss out on this, is not understanding relational database. So what do I mean by relational database? For relational database, I mean like data types. It might seem very easy, but it's very, very important. Like data types, the tables, the relationship. What I mean by relationship, I mean one-to-many relationship, one-to-one relationship, and many-to-one relationships. So these are a lot of things that we all need to have an idea about before working on a project. You need to know this basic understanding about relational database. And when working on a project, there's one thing I would advise you to always have. You should have an entity relationship diagram. With an entity relationship diagram, this will give you a clear view of how the datas of what data you are going to be collecting, how many tables you are going to be working with, the data types of that data, and also it's also going to be giving you an idea about the relationships between the different tables that you are going to be using in your project or your solution. And another thing we are going to be also talking about is not asking the right questions. And how does this happen is that not being able to ask the right questions, it just means that you do not have a clear understanding of either the business requirement or the client's problem. So when talking about the business problem or the client's requirement. A lot of people have different views where they think about, okay, a Power Platform consultant needs to, they'll be like, Rachel, why are you talking about this? I think this should be more fitted to a Power Platform consultant. But I think this is essential for both a consultant and a developer to know. So you need to understand, you have to have a clear understanding, because if you have a clear understanding, if you have like an idea, okay, let's say if you have an idea and there's something you do not understand, it will be very easy for you to ask a question to clear something that you do not understand, because most times you might ask questions that are not very clear to the client, or might even sound to you like you'll be like, okay, what, I don't even understand what is it I'm asking. So stuff like that. And then we also have communication and collaboration between team members. So when you're working on a project where you have more than one person working on that project, it's very essential for you to have a catch-up call where everybody on the project gets to talk about what they are doing on that particular project, being able to communicate what they are doing on the project, what they have done for that day, or what they have done for that week, or what have they already completed. It's very important for everybody to know from each end what is happening. So being able to communicate clearly in a way that people would understand you, to know what you are doing. Something, you might be doing something very complex, you might be building something very complex, but being able to explain, it's very, being able to explain clearly, it's very important. And then one other thing too is that, okay, maybe for instance, you have a client that wants to know, like maybe bi-weekly or weekly, they want to know what the team members in the project are doing. They want to know how everything is happening in the project. They want to come along with everything that's happening on the project. So, and you have the opportunity to, as a developer, yeah, okay, you're like, okay, can you tell me what you are doing, what you have done for this week, or what you are currently doing? So being able to explain to a client in a non-technical term about what you are doing is very important, because not everybody understands the technical terms. So being able to explain to technical and non-technical people, for them to understand what you are doing, is very essential. And then a consultant. So, what is the role of a consultant? Because the role of a consultant is very important, and they play a very crucial role as a developer in a project. And one of the things they do is that they work hand in hand with developers. So, how do they work hand in hand with developers? They help with translating the client's requirements. They help with translating the client's requirements. They help with so many things in the project. They also they work with stakeholders, and they also build Power Platform solutions. So not just the developers building, but the consultants, they also build Power Platform solutions. So what are the key consulting skills that I think that are essential for developers? So there are a lot of skills that I feel that are very essential for every, like consulting skills, that I feel that every developer should know. And I would definitely love for you to research more about this, but I'm going to be speaking on a few things that I think as a developer you need to know. Even apart from consulting, even apart from the Power Platform ecosystem where we have consultants and we have developers, and I am very certain that other career paths, there are also other platforms, they also have consultants and developers. But let's say as a professional developer, I think that this is are also skills that you also need to have as a professional developer. So being able to communicate clearly is very important. I've spoken about that. Being able to communicate clearly on what you are doing, and also being an active listener. Like, apart from even as a career, we all need to be an active listener. It's very important. Be an active listener, because when you're an active listener, you get the opportunity to ask the right questions. You get the opportunity to ask the right questions, and also you get it easier to understand what is actually happening in a project. And then the next thing is understanding the client's requirements, being able to understand the business problem. These are things I feel that would help a lot. Understand the business problem, understand understand the business and the goal, like what is the goal of this project, what are they trying to achieve with this project, understanding the goal, and then understanding the client's requirement, like why do they need this, and also other things they actually need in the project, being able to understand. Because if you understand the project, even if you understand the client's requirements, even though you have questions, you be able to ask the right, like you'll be able to ask the right questions when you are going through the business requirements and you feel that okay, there's an area that has a gap. Okay, like I feeling that okay, this particular requirement has a gap, that either there's something that needs to be done here, or that this particular requirement was not well explained. And then the next thing is having an expert knowledge. So having an expert knowledge is very important. And what do I mean by having an expert knowledge? I mean that you need to know your onions, like you need to know what you are doing. You need to understand the platform. You need to understand what you can do with each platform. Like for instance, in Power Platform, we have 5 applications. We have the Power Apps, we have the Power Automate, we have the Power BI, we have the Power Pages, and we have the Copilot Studio. So being able to understand what these 5 applications, what you can do achieve with these 5 applications is very crucial. Even though you don't have in-depth knowledge of the 5 applications, maybe you have in-depth knowledge about 2 or 3 applications, it's very important to know what you can achieve with those 5 applications. Being able to understand what they can do and their limitations is very, very important. And then the next thing we are also looking at is critical thinking. Critical thinking is very important, and it's a very crucial soft skill that everybody should have, even as a developer, a consultant, or whatsoever career path you are following. It's very important to have critical thinking. And then teamwork and collaboration. So being able to work well with others is very important. Be nice, be kind. Apart from communicating clearly, be kind. And also when working on a project, maybe you are writing a code, try to add comments to your code so that when people actually see it, they can be like, okay, this is what was done here. And we also have problem solving, which is a very important skill set, a very important soft skill that everybody should also have. Yeah, so thank you so much. And I would advise you to actually check more on consulting skills, because I feel that everybody should have this. Like, there are so many skills in consulting that everybody should look at and develop on. So you can connect with me on my Linktree account by scanning this code. You by scanning the code, you can connect with me on my LinkedIn. You can connect with me on Twitter. I have a YouTube channel and I have a podcast, Instagram. I'm kind of everywhere, so you can connect with me. Yeah. So thank you so much. And if you have a question, you can just drop your questions. And don't forget to connect with the Dynamics user group, and also register for DynamicsCon next year, 2025. It's going to be awesome in Chicago, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Bye.